Before I start, I just would first like to recognize that Indigenous people, as you've heard yesterday and today, are the traditional stewards of land and waters. I am speaking from Canada's capital region, so I am on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. So we have a lot to learn from them and their culture and traditional knowledge. And from now, hopefully, I can give you a bit more information about how to protect ideas. There are different ways to do that. And intellectual property. What is that? What is intellectual property? A lot of people never heard that before. You may have heard patents. You may have heard trademarks. You see that on the slide. Copyrights. Not many people heard industrial designs. In some countries, it's not even called that. We'll see a bit about that. There's more to that. So all of these are part of the family, essentially, of what is known as intellectual property. It's one type of property you can own. And then we're going to see a bit more about that. So I am André Gallant, and so I work for Canada's IP office. Every country has an office like that. Because when you want to protect it, you may want to know where you want to protect it. And then and let's move on to the first one. So a patent. We talk about inventions. Not all inventions you can protect with a patent, but that's the one of the IP that you may want to think about if you are inventing something. So what is a patent? What's that word? What does it mean? It's actually a document. If you get a patent, you get a piece of document, and the inventors or the owner of that patent would be able to try to stop others from copying them. And if they want to use that invention, they would need permission from the people who have that piece of paper. And so, and then you can exchange the permission for money, and that's why you can make money with your invention. Or you can decide that you're not going to allow others to use your invention, and you're the only one who's going to use that invention to make money. It's as if you're playing a sport, and instead of playing against another team, there's no team, and you're the only one who can score goals. So that's essentially for patent, but we're going to see it's the same for the other type of IP. So patent protects some form of how ideas come into play, okay? And inventions have to be new. So it has to be the first in the world that you think about that invention. It has to solve a problem. That's one of the criteria. Right? It has to work. And an inventive. So inventive is, even if it doesn't exist anywhere around the world, it cannot be too obvious to someone who work in that technology or science or engineering, okay? And then just keep in mind, if you are inventing, coming up with new ideas, it's always good to talk to people like me before you start sharing too much of your secrets. You can show and talk about when you go to science fairs and so forth, and show a bit what you're coming up with by talking and more generally. But all the little details, you just have to be careful when you talk to and who you talk to. But there's a way to make money, and there are people, inventors, who choose not to make money, to share what they came up with the world for free. So there are two ways to go about it. So there are some vaccines or medicine that some inventors decided they wanted to give this to the world, so they chose not to apply for a patent. So, and those who do, it's because a lot of the time it takes a lot of money for your invention to eventually work, and there's a lot of money that people pay to do some research, and that money you never come up with inventions all the time. So that could be a reason. That's an example of a drawing that a particular invention that got a patent. It looks like an umbrella, some sort of a structure. All sorts of structures you may get a patent, even if it looks a bit like another one. If it does something better, different, and so that's what. So you don't submit a prototype You have to work on your prototype to see if it's going to work, and you do that secretly. But once you're ready to apply, and then you submit documents, and one of the document are drawings, and another document. Don't read this. Don't read this. It's just to show that a lot of words to describe in words what your invention is. That's just one of the, we call it claim, but it's just to show you that if you were to close your eyes and someone was to read that to you and you knew a bit about engineering and science, you may be able to kind of picture it in your mind how it actually works in detail. I just listed a few examples of actual patents that were filed and were approved by the government of Canada, and those were done with by inventors with the help of people who know how to essentially write this for you and then do these drawings. So they were successful. So look at the title. I just put the title. I didn't put the full description, but the title sometimes tells you a lot. So sensor device for providing marine vessel data. That's one. And then we have ones for reducing environmental impact of marine fuel oil. That's the second one. We have electrical power, electricity from ocean waves. The third one. The marine propulsion device reminds me a bit of one of the earlier presentation today from the team Crimson Dragons in Japan, the marine autonomous system. So, and if you want to find ideas to keep on innovating, you can look at all the patents out there and do searches to see what's out there. How can I make things better? How can I invent something that doesn't exist? Once you have a product or a service, you may want to give it a name, or a business, you may want to give it a name or a logo or a slogan. Okay, and then you can even, we see on the first point on the slide, that's a trademark. Okay, so we used to talk about patents here. If I go back, that's a patent. That's one of the IP right. And then if we go to trademark, that's another one, a different one, but it's if you have a trademark on a name, we see examples, Nike, the Nike symbol, the Lululemon symbol. It could be the name McDonald's. It could be any restaurant, any cosmetic product, any machine, any like the iPhone from Apple, the Samsung, all of those are trademarks. And if you don't want others to copy you with a similar name, even if it's not spelled the same way, the rules around the world, you have to be careful not to be too close. Nike, Knicks, McDonald. So here we give an example. It's on our website. It's South Pole at the bottom of the planet, and they want to sell frozen water products. But they can't use North Pole for ice cream, because North Pole is not the same combination of word. You have North and South, that's different. But if one came to try to get a trademark before the other one, the other one would not be able to use a similar name. So that's an example. And branding can be powerful. Patent is only good for 20 years. But once your patent is expired, or if you use another IP, or sometimes just the name alone can be worth a lot of money. People recognize Coca-Cola. You can make a soft drink and it can taste like Coca-Cola, but you cannot call it Coca-Cola. It's worth a lot of millions of dollars, just the name alone. So clothing brand, jewelry, like even products, the iPhone, all of those products. Copyright. That's the third one we're going to see today. We're going to see 4 or 5 today. So copyright, a song, a movie, a sculpture, a painting, artistic, literary, musical. Okay, those categories. And what does it give the creators? Again, they can decide who gets to play their music or read their book or look at their painting. And we see here examples in the second line here. It includes the last point here in that example. These are just examples, software code. So when you produce a new computer program or a phone application like Instagram or Facebook, all of those, there's some language used. You will see in the next slide. And before we see actual what computer code can look like, a lot of you probably saw it before I did. But you have to be original. That's the last point on the slide. And you can't copy others. Okay, because copyright, you don't have to apply. A patent for inventions, you have to apply. You're going to be examined. If you apply in Canada, you're going to be examined by engineers and scientists to make sure that what you say, how it actually works, and it's actually new. But for copyright, the beauty is that it's automatic. There are things that are more complex, not for today, but at least if you take a picture, you put it on the internet, others are not supposed to take it, even if there's not that copyright symbol that we see on the slide here, that on the bottom right with the C with the circle around. So just be careful about that, and that would be for future conversations. Here are examples that is beyond artistic. Well, it is artistic, but it's not, it's beyond the arts community purely, or music. So website content, a bit like it, instead of being in a book or instead of being a video on your phone, it could be on a website. But the computer code language, you see that on the right-hand side. So it's the same as protecting a poem or a book that's written in English, Mandarin, Spanish, French, but instead of a poem or a book, it's a computer program written in one of those computer languages. And the last one that we do where I work is industrial design. Okay, industrial design, it protects not how an object works, but how it looks. It almost looks like the trademark in a sense, like a branding. Like how can you make something look better? A cool name, a cool like a iPhone, but a cool look of an object. You can sell a lot. You can sell a lot of your products if it looks good. So like the iPhone looks good. And then we see examples at the bottom. If I start at the bottom with a picture, so the shape of the sneaker, the lines underneath the sneaker, like it could be if you go and buy sneakers, or if you see your friend's sneakers, look underneath, you'll see that the lines are different with the shape of the car, the shape of the headlights on the car, the shape of the mirror on the car, the treads on underneath the tire. So all those companies would spend money on getting an industrial design, and it protects the appearance that we see at the top of the slide. Now how it works. If you want to protect how it works, how it looks, the name, then you can have more than one IP that you would get. And then with that, then no one can make the same shape without your permission. Okay, and then you can charge money to allow people to use that. We see furniture, even a lot of industrial design in furniture in the fashion world. We see that. In other countries, we see on this slide, the second point, the second line on this slide is that sometimes other countries call that a design patent, like in the United States. And then we see examples. So it protects the shape of the object. Configuration at the bottom, we see the last line on configuration means where things are located. So if you look at the smartphone and you see all where the apps are located, where they're located on the screen, that's a configuration. And it could also be a security system, or the panel on your marine autonomous system. So like there could be industrial design or patterns and ornaments. Well, if you go get a water bottle from a store and they have like dots that go around, it's repetitive, that would be a pattern. And if it's a pot, a vase with flowers around, that's not repetitive, that would be ornament. Here are examples in the marine industry. And then you see the title. And these are Canadian registrations of industrial design. So I gave two examples. And then with the title, unmanned marine surface vessel. And the last one, the second one is marine trash receptacle. And this is the last slide, but just to know that there's more IP to this, okay? There's also trade secrets. There's also social media accounts, and even all of you were coming up with amazing ideas. You also are considered intellectual property, because whoever you're going to work for, unless you start your own company, the people don't want to lose people like you. So there are other things to talk about IP that even you are almost considered intellectual property. You want to learn more? You can go at our website, cipo.gc.ca. You see the acronym of our office. Put that in the address bar and press enter. It's going to transform. You're going to get many resources. You're going to get these. Oh, just a minute. The alarm to say that I'm at 15 minutes. Or if you want to contact people like me, you go at the bottom here, www.canada.ca/IP-advisors. You'll get regions of the country. I'm Atlantic Canada, so that's the region that this event is being held, essentially, and that's the region that's surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, with 4 regions, provinces. You've heard New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador, and Prince Edward Island. So if you click, you'll see my picture. You can book meetings if you want to keep on educating, you have questions now or when you continue your studies. Or when you become a successful entrepreneur or researcher, you never cease, never stop learning. There are a lot of rules, and the more you know, and you want to know more than people you're competing against. And I have my email address. I want to thank everyone for listening. I can take questions if there's any question.
Thank you, Andre, for that presentation.
Oh, my pleasure.
That was very informative and helpful. I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm a punny person. I make puns all the time. And last year, I started calling our brilliant participants beautiful people. Can I copyright the word beautiful?
That's a good question we often hear. You cannot copyright a word or a few words, but you could trademark it. So that's a perfect example that we often use, actually. But I love the word you invented. Like, it's not an invention, but we often use that word. But you created a cool word. You could see that as a made-up word, and if you associate it with goods and services that you offer, then you would look to make sure that word. There are a lot of rules, and that's where I would talk to people to say, well, is that okay or not to trademark that word? And if it's okay, then with what goods and services. So there are tricks about make sure the word is not too close to another word that's used in what you're selling, goods or services. So if it's associated with education services, so you don't have to put that on sneakers and on cars and on robots it can be on services as well. So it could be education services. And then make sure that in the education services there's no similar word, and that the word, there are other rules. I'm not going to go into more detail, but you can copyright a poem or a book, but you cannot copyright the name or even the title of an album, for example, or the title of a book. Harry Potter would be more a trademark than a copyright if they actually choose to trademark it. The same way, but sometimes you have overlap with like Mickey Mouse. Yeah. Mickey Mouse is an example where it's trademark and copyright, but that's for another day.
Thank you. We have a question actually from the chat. What about the expression "he shoots and scores"?
That's very good. Look at McDonald's. Those are called slogan. That could be a slogan potentially, and a slogan could also be protected by a trademark. Think of McDonald's, I'm loving it. Think of Nike, just do it. And in Canada, and then we have other ones that if you start looking at commercials, you're going to notice. So then it would be whether there are rules that would prevent someone from getting a trademark on he shoots and scores. But that's a very good asking all very good questions.
Thank you. That it pays off when you have brilliant, beautiful people on your team.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you so much, Andre. Thank you for coming in and talking to us about intellectual property. I hope everyone found some benefit that they can apply to what they're working on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day
Goodbye.
and best continuation.